there's got to be a time where players can make an error without consequence. They'll never try things. They'll never become solution finders, and you'll not engage their creativity and energy if you're ripping on them because the ball went out of bounds.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we're joined by the founder of Better Basketball, Rick Torbett. After 20 years of coaching, Coach Torbett created an offensive system called the Read and React, which allows players to make plays, not just run plays. Make sure you check out betterbasketball.com to see all the different products he has to offer, from offense to shooting to individual and team defense. He's one of the greatest teachers we have in the game today. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
How you doing, Matt?
Oh, man, I'm good. And first of all, thank you so much for giving up your time and coming on here to speak with me. This is an honor for me.
Oh, but the honor is all mine. Trust me. Thank you. Thank you for it. It's just a compliment that you asked me to be on with you. Thank you.
Well, I've had the pleasure of getting to, I've sat in the crowd and listened to you teach multiple times through at PGC coaching clinics, Glacier a few times. And then, Coach, I wanted to show you, you also helped me. So offensively, I feel like I have a pretty good identity in what I like. And then a few years ago as a head coach, I realized defensively, I just don't know how to teach it. And so, Coach, I bought this right here, Dynamic Defense, Better Basketball. And it really helped me to shape and kind of zero in on what I wanted to do. So, like I said, this is a big deal for me, man.
Well, thank you. Well, there's no better compliment than to see you hold up that DVD on Dynamic Defense. Thank you.
What's one quality you see in leaders that coaches need to cultivate in their own habits?
To be able to call each other out without bruising each other. Now, what I mean by call out is, coaches do it all the time when they see, players doing something that they either shouldn't be doing, or they could do it better, or they missed a read or something. Or maybe it's their effort, energy, I don't know. But the coach doesn't think anything about calling out the players, right? But I really do think in these times that we're in, you really got to work on a culture that allows you to call each other out on these things with an understanding that, hey, I'm trying to make you better. I value our relationship more than anything, and I don't want to bruise it. And some people can do it very well. Others, like me, we have to work on it. But I also think that players, of course, coaches could call out coaches, but players can call out coaches. Now, what I mean by that is, I'm not just on anything. I think it helps if you were to say, have a commitment statement before your season and sit down and say, look, this is what I promise to bring to practice every day. This is what I promise to do with perhaps each individual player. This is me. This is who I am. Lay it out there with the idea that if you don't meet up to it, your players, your other coaches can and should call you out. I just think it's really good for each other.
What a healthy environment and culture it is when players are able to, because I'm not just calling out, but asking questions where they feel like, without fear of getting, a negative response from their coach, But you're right. If a coach tells a team, this is how I'm going to show up every day, then there's a higher expectation for them, for us to show up like that. But then players, there needs to be, teach them the appropriate way to hold. Because coach, that's not right. Coach, you're doing it wrong. Like, no. There has to be a correct way of doing that, right?
Oh, yeah. And of course, leaders, you see this in natural leaders, they can bring it out in you. They can correct you, and you don't even know it until it's over with. And it's the next day, and you went, gee whiz, I guess he did kind of step on my toes, or she actually called me out, and I didn't realize it was just done in such a manner that I accepted it for what it was. Good correction, good guidance. And again, I see natural leaders doing this and doing it well.
I think it's really important too for the coaching staff to have that type of dynamic. So I'm this is my 9th year as a head coach. So
Right.
I would still consider myself a young head coach. I just not a lot of experience, and I felt over the years a little bit of hesitancy towards, not, and obviously not in front of my team, but even giving that feedback and correction to my coaching staff, whether they were older than me or younger than me. And so what advice do you have for coaches that do want to be able to lead because with players, at being an adult, they're
Right.
teenagers, there's that natural dynamic of, I can correct you, and if you were brought up the right way, you'll handle it the right way.
Right.
But with coaching staff, what's some advice you have there?
Oh, I think honesty and openness is king. And as much as can be written down, I think the better. As an example, I think before you get into the calling each other out, the holding each other to a standard, there's got to be an agreement, a corporate agreement, players, coaches among themselves, that we're all on one track. Now, if you're not on this track, then don't sign this agreement, hop off. The one track is, we're trying to get the absolute best out of all of us. And you know something? That means we've all got to grow, and that means it's going to be a little painful, and we've got to have a way of growing each other, which is going to be painful.
Yep.
Without bruising. And the reason I pick the word bruising, Matt, is bruises are marks that are left behind. I don't want marks left behind. All I want is a trail of improvement to show up.
That's great. I got to talk with Coach Drew a little bit about, and he said something about the way that him and his staff, they have such a unique relationship, is they are all equally trying to help each other, make each other grow. It's not Coach Drew up at the top just giving orders down and nobody can go up to him. They're all on the same playing field. And I think when you have that type of dynamic, man, you see their culture of joy maybe even more through that with their coaching staff.
Oh, yeah. And I think you got to examine your language, like the ability for you to say, what's the solution here? Why should you always have it? Why not let them discover it? Maybe you know it, but you're going to guide them, let them discover it. We know it, like the Socratic method. And this just means giving up a little bit of ego.
Yeah.
In order to do it.
And full moment of transparency, because what we're talking about is, especially as head coaches, if you're new or if you've been doing this for a long time, is being humble and realizing that other people may know things that you don't. But it's easier said than, like, we want players to be coachable. We want players to be sponges. But then I found so when I started directing with PGC, and I got a little bit of a rhythm of my own, Chad Sanji came and evaluated me. And I expected for him not to have too many notes. I was a little bit arrogant with what I was doing. And it was like I was transported back in time to being a player again. And here's this guy telling me all of the ways that I can grow and improve. But man, like I was in the comfort zone, and it's a beautiful place where nothing grows. And I was very resistant to what he was saying, but like great reminder for coaches we can never stop growing, and we don't know everything.
Right. You said you were in your 9th year, right?
Right now, yeah.
Don Meyer said it'll take you 10 years to create your own coaching philosophy. Interesting, huh? Well,
I'm still on that path then. Still on that path.
You may be an exception.
No, I think he's right on the money. I think if we look back 5-10 years, if we're doing the same thing we were doing before, right. I think we have to always be evaluating the why behind everything we're doing.
Sure. Well, I just remember thinking, and it was a lot more longer than 10 years for me, maybe double that. That at first I'm coaching the way my coaches coach. I'm running practices the way my coaches ran practice. I never really even sat down and wondered why we did what we do. Why do we do a 5-man weave? How is that supposed to transfer to a game? Right.
I've never seen a team of 5 go like this and start running.
I've never seen that, I stopped drilling suicides because I was afraid my players would start to transition and touch the line, turn around and come back and give no, just kidding. But then I also, I found myself coaching my players as if my players were me. Like, this is how I would like to be coached. Well, times have changed, For me, it was like, hey, whatever the coach says goes, run through that wall, I run through that wall. I don't question this person knows more than me. They're the leader, they're running this, I follow, I learn, that's, there's just a different, so I had to change in terms of, okay, this is a new generation, and it's, by the way, which is always changing, from one year to the next. And I've just got to approach some things differently.
Yeah, I think we have to continue to meet kids where they are.
Yep.
And they're just not always going to be exactly where we want them to be, for sure.
No, you waste a lot of time trying to get them there.
Yeah.
When you just meet them where they're at, adapt, and go on,
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
I've loved getting to listen to your offensive philosophies and the things you teach, and on the shooting side too. So as we kind of move that direction, one of my favorite questions to ask is your favorite shooting game. If you just had your team in the gym or a group you're working with, this is the one. What do you go with?
Oh, favorite shooting game with my team?
Team or individual? Is it groups of 2 or 3 or anything competitive? Because as a coach that likes to run and gun, I'm always looking for new things.
Okay. Well, there's some really good ones out there, okay? But when I was thinking of this, I kept going back to a favorite from a lot of my private training, although I've turned this into something that could be done on every goal. So if you've got 6 goals, you're going to have 2 at each goal. So it would occupy 12. You could easily have 3 at each goal. So that would accommodate, 18 players. And I can show you where they'd be. You need a rebounder and a passer, okay? But the shooting drill is in one of my courses. I put it in called 15, I think it's 15 shooting workouts, okay? And the name of it, I just call it motion all around shooting, okay? And I could show you the video, but it's not going to help on the podcast. Okay, so I'll try. You can see my board,
yes,
right?
sir. Yeah, let's draw it up.
And I'll try to describe it verbally as well as I can. Okay, so let's just take. I'm going to The yellow player is going to be the coach. That's you, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to put these players off. But again, you could have an extra player on here to rebound, and you, the coach, are just the passer. You're going to be right here in the middle of the lane.
Okay.
But I've done this with just me and another player, okay? All right, so you start with the ball. Your player starts here on the baseline with their back to the half line, and they begin to backpedal toward the half line. Now, when you're ready for them to change directions, you pound the ball on the floor, okay? When you pound, they change direction. Now, just consider, coach, transition. You're getting back on defense. Someone stole the ball. Boom, you turn and you got to go, right?
Right.
That's what I'm trying to imitate, okay? Now, they come in for a layup, and I give them a pass wherever I want to. So I mix this up. At first, I give them a pass where they can just catch step and put it up. Other times, I give it to them out here where they got to catch, put it on the ground once in order to get to the rim. Sometimes when they're back paddling, I don't pound it. I throw them the ball. They have to catch it, throw to me, and cut.
Nice.
So, but that's like 3 different workouts, you know.
Yeah.
I change it up in the workouts. Okay, so let's just stick to the main one. So they come in and they shoot this layup. Now, they don't rebound.
Okay.
I'm rebounding this layup, and they continue to curl to the elbow on the other side of the lane.
Yep.
And by then, I'm giving them a bounce pass because I want their footwork right there to be a 1-2, a pivot square up, not a hop, okay? So they're just consider that you're curling around a screen and you're catching a pass, and I need you to catch step, boom, 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 up, right?
Yep.
Now, they don't rebound that shot. I do. Now, if it goes long, big deal. You're going to see it doesn't matter because after they shoot this, they fade to the same side wing / corner, just somewhere over there outside the 3. Now, wherever I rebound the ball, I'm going to throw it up in the air, coach. I'm going to get some air on it like you're throwing a skip pass.
Mm-hmm.
I want this player to move under the pass. So I'm not giving them a great.
It's not perfect. Yep.
You know, it's going to be off a little. So they got to move, get under. And in this case, they're going to catch in a hop. The other kind of footwork, right?
Yep.
So I'm working 2 kinds of footwork here, a 1-2, and they're going to move under, catch in a hop, and shoot that. Okay. So hopefully they're shooting a 3 there. All right. But sometimes they catch in here. Just depends on my pass. All right. And of course, I'm rebounding that. Now, after they shoot it, the pattern begins again, but on the other side. So they immediately begin to backpedal.
Backpedal. Very cool.
And so wherever by the time I get the ball, I look up here, see where they're at. I pound it. They take off. I'm hitting down. It's a left-handed layup, right? By the way, let me stop here. So in later workouts, I'm changing this to a 2-foot shot.
Nice.
I'm changing to reverse layup. I just, all kind of teardrop. I start changing the way they finish. Okay. But of course, when they shoot, they curl to the elbow on that side. And on this side, the footwork, the way you're looking at it, would be right, left.
Yes, sir.
It'd be right, left. So they're getting that mid-range shot. Right? So you're getting a layup, mid-range shot, and then they're fading, and I'm throwing the skip again, and they catch and shoot a 3. So they're getting a layup, mid-range shot, a 3-point shot. They're working on their 1-2 footwork. They're catching a hop footwork, and on any kind of layup finish that I want. Now, if you consider getting back to the starting point as one trip, coach, about 4 trips and their tongue is dragging on the floor.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of movement. If yours paint on the bottom of your feet, there'd be steps, footprints all over the place. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I used to train a good while back, 20 years ago. I used to train players who were waiting on their NBA tryout. These are the mid-college, all-conference players. You know, they just have to kind of stay in shape and wait for that call, right, to go for a tryout. So they would come into Atlanta and stay in Atlanta until they got the call, and they would come and work out with me. Well, of course, I'm working on, like you say here, finishing, mid-range, three-point shots. They need to do that. But this was also a judge of their conditioning.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many trips can you go before you just gas out, or you start missing every shot? That's usually the key. You start now with your team, you can do this on a clock.
How long would you go? High school team? What would you start with?
Oh, I would start with 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes, maybe 3, because you're going hard here. You're going, I want them sprinting when they back pedal, and when I pound it, I want them sprinting.
Could you make it and you could make it competitive with, the highest score, like layups are worth 1, elbows worth 1, threes are worth 2, because there's always the time element's great, but then some type of score to where bring them all in. I love that.
Oh yeah, no, and tweak the scores sometime. Yeah. Okay, do it the opposite way. If you want to even things up, I've done this. Layups are 3, mid range is 2, threes are 1. So the kid that can't shoot the 3 very well, they still got a chance if they can make all their layups, Anyway.
That's a great idea, though, too. I think if you look at most shooting games, what are the shots that they focus on the most? It's those ones that are worth the most. And yes. So you can change it up day to day, depending on, right now, just finishing, it just seems like our touch is a little bit off. So yeah. That finish is going to be worth the most for you. I love that.
Right. Yeah, it's my favorite. Another reason I love it is I don't have to run around too much.
Now, what do you see obviously with one coach in the gym, for me, I'd be up at half court watching the time and everything. Do you trust a player to be the rebounder and pound? You after you teach it, they just have to be a good teammate there, right?
Yes, they do. But here's a great chance for you to teach the players what the reminders that they should be giving their teammates as they're going through the drill. Get the ball in the square on the finish.
What type of footwork are you using?
Yep. Yes, left, right, or right, left. Remember, left. You're calling this out before. And hey, get your feet in the air. Get your feet in the air. Hold your follow through. There's a chance to give reminders and encouragement and report. And so it should be a very noisy gym if you do that and do it right. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of all these possibilities that you can do with this and combine their scores to where the rebounder has even more invested, because the more that my teammate makes, it's going to affect me too. If you combine their scores, Jim, I love that.
Right. Oh, you can do things like if they miss it and the player rebounds it without it hitting the floor, and you can you maybe get 1 point for that. If you can put it back in without taking a dribble,
yeah,
you get another point or 2, and you can add to the score. So that way the scores stay a little closer. If you do something like that.
Give me the name of that game one more time.
Oh, it's MARS, like Mars.
Okay.
Motion all around shooting.
I like that.
Of course, I hyphenated around to round like they are.
Coach, that's good. The Faith Lions are going to be doing Mars shooting here in a little bit. I love it.
Hey, let me add one too, since you got a feel for that.
Oh yeah.
When they curl to the when they shoot the layup and they curl in here to shoot this mid-range, Okay, like tomorrow, just say, now that they know the pattern, the next day, you're going to catch this. You see the momentum? You're going to catch this and rip and go the other way, one dribble, and shoot the bank. Yeah,
Mhm.
or right.
Yep.
And then when they fade here, today, when you catch this, you're going to catch, shot fake, one dribble, pull up in the mid range. So you can work on their rip and go.
It is skill work within a shooting game, but there are so many aspects to that I think it's awesome.
Oh, I added, um, um, when I throw this skip pass, I add a hop back three, to it. So they dry, one dribble, hop backs. Suddenly that becomes a lot more difficult, especially when they start getting tired.
Yeah, when those legs start getting at them.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skill Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NIA and NJCAA to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 10-minute, 100-shot test can be taken for free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game.
I know with all the other things that you teach with the defensive side and with read and react, you also teach shooting. So I think that's probably a subject we could spend 2 hours on.
Oh,
but
easily. It is my, you can, once you get talking, you can tell it's one of my favorites. It's where I kind of began to cut my teeth in private training.
Yeah.
I got a reputation in Atlanta that I could teach shooting. So
if you're walking to a gym and you have a kid that you really haven't spent a lot of time with, yeah, like I think for high school coaches, sometimes we get I have 20 to 30 kids in the gym by myself for 43 minutes and we do some shooting things, but I can really only look at a few major pieces to give them that, or else I could spend the whole 43 minutes with one kid and miss everybody else. So what are some of those keys that you teach when you're shooting?
Such a good question. Such a really good question. In fact, I was at Michigan State, last week or a week before, can't remember now, and for 3 days, 4 days. And I just couldn't resist, at the end of practice, when they were through, everyone was stepping off. There was one kid shooting, and I said, do you mind if I'm not supposed to be talking to anybody, during practice, but I said, can I just ask this kid to do a couple things? Okay. And the two things that I asked are the two things that I'm going to, and I'm going to tell you, these are the answers. Okay. First of all, there's a misconception that our arms provide the power to get the ball to the goal. And so what I told this player was, and by the way, this is where I start with anybody, is your core, which is from your feet, up to your shoulders, the whole thing there. Your core is going to provide the power to get the ball to the goal. I want your arms and hands free to simply guide the ball. So now how are we going to do that? That sounds great. How are you going to do that? Here's how. Time the breaking of your wrist with your feet leaving the ground. Those two happen at the same time, or roughly the same time.
Yeah.
Now, with more advanced players, and stronger players as you develop them, that timing will be a lot like Steph Curry. When I freeze frame, record and freeze frame Steph Curry, now you know what I do with all my time. and I freeze frame him when his wrist breaks. Now I'm talking about he's shooting the 30-footer, right? Mm-hmm. The 35-foot Steph Curry shot, right? Like, oh my gosh, you're taking this, huh? When his wrist breaks, so the ball is only, 12 inches from it. As soon as his wrist breaks, his feet, Matt, are about, his toes are about this far off of the ground.
Wow.
Not very far. not very far. Okay. So when you begin developing, you just want, now, how do you help them do that? Stand beside them and watch their feet and just give a little clap when their feet leave the ground. And that way they can watch their shot and they can see if their wrist breaks with this sound. Can I do these two together? And suddenly you'll find that they've got plenty of power to get to the goal. I've done this with 7th grade girls that I've privately trained and turned them over the course of time into very good three-point shooters that have no problem getting the ball to the goal. That's not the problem. I never start out there. I start in closer, but the process is time the breaking of your wrist with your feet leaving the ground. You want to ride the power wave from your feet up through here that's running through your body. It's like surfing. You want the ball to be right on the edge of this, okay? By the way, let me throw this in too. Whoever's teaching women, girls, females to set the ball up here near their shoulders, would you please stop if you're hearing this? You're killing so many kids from being good shooters. I got one question. Yeah, I got one question. Do we do that with guys? We don't. Yeah. Guys set this thing right about where their numbers are on their jersey or their navel. Somewhere's right in here. And that allows ball momentum. It takes a very strong person to start it right here and jump and shoot. I mean, it's like, dude, that's for pros. Why are you killing women, girls, and get them to, okay, anyway, sorry. Get off that soapbox. All right. The second thing that I would do, and this covers a multitude of sins, Matt, is what I call frame the goal with your follow through. Now, what I mean by that, and you can see me and people listening to podcasts cannot, but everyone listening knows what a high follow through and extended follow through is, right? Okay. Like this shooting hand, the wrist is broken, right? And Matt, the way I'm looking at you on this podcast, my shooting fingers, I'm raising them to the top of the screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Actually, my shooting fingers, when I'm shooting from the 3-point line, and when you're shooting from 3-point line, is probably about this visually. I mean, actually, it's probably 2 feet above the backboard, the top of the backboard. Okay. Just go check it out. Now, with smaller kids, with younger kids, it's like the top of the backboard. Okay. But now, here's the biggie. I want the left hand, the other hand, the guide hand, the non-shooting hand, to be extended as well. And do you see how in the video I have my hand is framing my head?
Yeah, I see that. Yep.
I want them to frame the goal with the think of a big window frame that you're sticking the rim in right in the middle. On the top of that window frame is the shooting fingers, okay? And that, of course, should be pointed directly down in the goal, just like my shooting fingers right down the middle of my head, right?
Yep.
And the other one is also fully extended. Here you go. I'll hold them down where you can see. So I've got full relaxed extension by both arms. Matt, what this does is it keeps a player from twisting and torquing and turning. If you hold a one-handed follow through, you'll turn like that. You'll twist. And that's why you see a lot of players follow through like this. Can you see my hand?
Yep.
Like they'll
pointing off to the right.
Yep. Off to the right. That's because their brain is trying to correct a torque, a vector that when you do this and it sends the ball, for me, I'm shooting right-handed, so it sends the ball to my left. Well, right at the last moment, I've got to kind of correct it and send the ball back to try and keep it straight down the middle. That is not a way to have a trustworthy shot. So if you want to stay square, relatively square to the goal, and cut out some of, if not all of the twist, of shooting, with one hand. Keep both hands extended and frame the goal. So sometimes, and the reason I say frame the goal is because players have got to become their own best shot doctor.
Right.
So they've got to know, not you. You can't be there with every one of their shots, but they can. So if they know what to look for, look, I don't care if you're fading, if your feet are facing this way and you shoot, look, you can always catch the goal in your frame. And I would just dare anybody to take really good shooters. Okay. Clay, right? Last name went right out of my.
Yeah, I mean, I could think Clay, Reddick. So many great shooters. They probably have that same follow through in common.
Well, now you know why I chose. I did everything I could, and luckily got J.J. Reddick right out of college to demonstrate on my shooting video. It's not because I trained Reddick. I didn't. Okay. It's silly.
You don't claim credit for
no,
JJ Reddick.
Can't take any credit for that long NBA career that he did. Dadgummit, he should send me some of that big contract.
It's all you, man. That's what. Yeah. I got two questions. So
I'm responsible. No, it's because he shot the way I teach. Go ahead.
The first one, I would imagine. So I like the fact that you have those two things. And it doesn't really mess because there's so much. I mean, you get so deep in the mud with how they're holding it and how they're lining up. But you take those two things with speeding up their release. I would imagine, like, if a kid has a weird hitch, if he has a pause, if it's not smooth coming up through, that's speeding it up. He's either not going to be able to do it. Yep. He's not going to be able to get that flick of his wrist to go with his feet coming off. But then when he starts to make the adjustment, it'll magically start to correct some things.
You nailed it. And I haven't even, that's a conclusion I would expect you to come to, Matt, if you got out and did it with some players. I can't believe you're exactly right. I do that because it's like it self-corrects so many things, Yeah,
you can't do it fast if you have so many almost impurities, something, with your shot. So many inconsistencies. And
it's really hard to kind of shoot like this.
Can't do it. Yeah.
When you got to finish with it.
That's right. The second one with the frame, just so that I can see it right. You've got your finger. If I'm right hand shooting, my fingers, if I'm looking up at the goal, where should my tips be? Right above the backboard or right above? Okay, so backboard. Yes. So almost parallel with the ends of my fingertips with the top of the backboard. Guide hand, side of the backboard or the actual rim? Because when you say goal, just want to make sure I got it.
No, side of the rim.
Okay, so side of the rim for my guide hand, top of the backboard for my shooting hand.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, rough. Again, that's rough, Now, what I'll do is I'll stand behind a player, or if you're in a gym with a bunch of shooters, I just wander around and I get behind them, and I can see through their frame, and I'll make little corrections there. Hey, go ahead and extend the left hand a little further, maybe above the goal, but on the side of the goal, still, they might be catching, Matt, this, there's my guide hand, right?
Yep.
They might be catching the rim with their wrist between, it may be above. So if my head was the rim, it may not be like this. It may be more like this. When you fully extend, if I had something that I could fit between their wrist right here, like a sight, I would adjust it until the rim came between these forearms,
nice
wrist, and you could just catch. Now, why? Because that's how they control arc. You said tips of the fingers above the backboard. That's how you're going to control arc. If the tips of your fingers, if you can't see them, the arc is too much. It's going to bring rain, right? If if your fingers are below, like for me and you, our size, shooting from the 3-point line, if the tips of our fingers are below the top of the backboard, it's too flat, way
Yep.
too flat.
Yep.
Now, for kids like junior high, stuff like that, you know, and I'm training them, say, at the free throw line, right in there, you know, to shoot, then tips of their fingers can't go below the little white square.
Okay.
You'll adjust that.
Yep.
You know?
I think you'll be. I'm guessing I'll be able to get a good feel, one, based on the path of the ball for them. Like, I'm not going to keep telling them to have their fingers up at the very top if it's obviously if it's pushing it right. Yeah. What I love about that, though, so I think I've always felt like high school coaches we need to reclaim the being skill coaches for our players. We see them the most. Like, we have a really good feel for where they're at, but we need ideas like that, because I can't take a kid for 30 minutes every day and go through a checklist of 10. But what I can do is walk around in our shooting games. We shoot hundreds of threes every day through different games and trackings and things. I can start to check their frame. And and what I love about it too, Coach, is brilliant, is they can do it themselves. Because if we're only giving them golden nuggets that we have to be there in order for them to continue it, then I got to stand there the whole time.
That's right. There's only one of you.
That's great.
And I've always told them, look, my goal, the reason I'm telling you why on all this, is my goal is to turn you into your own best shot doctor. You got to know why it goes in. You got to know why it misses right, why it misses left, why you're short, why you're long. You got to know, and you got to know the corrections, you know. So short and long, by the way, you've just described it, you know. Where do the tips of this shooting finger finish? Is it too high, too low? That's how you make your adjustments. What about left and right? This is the frame. It's usually the non-shooting hand. You got to get it up there, and you got to catch the rim between your wrists. You know, there's like taking a picture.
Yep.
And that'll usually correct left and right, you know.
Coach, I appreciate you sharing those two things, because again, just like the shooting game is going to help us with training. I'm already in my mind thinking of a few guys that. Oh, one question I had with the frame: how long do they hold it?
Oh, excellent! So I'm so glad you didn't go on. I hold it until the ball hits rim or net. And by the way, that gives them time to make corrections. I'm going to give you a nugget, okay? And this comes from a good 20 years of private training, okay? When I was coaching, I was also doing private training. And here's what I found from experience. What they do after the shot, the corrections that they make to their form after the shot transfers. That's how you correct it, because you can't correct it while they're shooting. The shot, it's all too fast. It's all right.
Oh, it's already out. It's already
right. and you know, I used to find myself saying stuff like, okay, now for the next 10 shots, I want you to make sure that your feet are square and that the ball is set and that your wrist is broken. And it's like, oh, already, yeah, their minds are about to explode, right? And so after the shot, they help. First of all, that allows me to see what they're doing. So, Coach, you can see me, right? So at the end of my shot, I'm like this, right? Okay. And I'll go, hey, you got to frame the goal. And they'll turn, they'll square up, they'll frame it. And I'm not going to let them go. I'm not going to say good. When I say good, or their shooting partner says good, that's when they can drop their hands. Now, that's for those that are. Now, hey, I got to tell you this. There was a kid. This was the first year we made it to the Final Four, and I had this kid who, as a freshman, he was the valedictorian of the school. This is a very smart player, okay, and he was a good athlete. As a freshman, this was his follow through. Coach, he looked over his right elbow
The shooting
after
elbow.
the
Yeah.
shot. Right? And I used to say, hey, are you shooting over there, like 45 degrees over there? Because where your hands finish
Yep.
is where the ball's going to go. You can't get past that, you know? And I said, so you're doing all kinds of things with your body to, you know, to finish over here and let the ball go that way. So, by the way, none of that works. See, so I told his shooting partner in practice for 3 years, okay, because the one I'm going to tell you about is his junior year. For 3 years, I told him, look, you don't throw the ball back to him in our shooting, any of our shooting, until he's done this. Until he has brought his bad follow through up and framed the goal and squared up, then he can drop his hands, then you can throw him the ball. Okay. Oh my goodness, it made him so mad, you know. I can't believe I'm having to do this and no one else has. Now let me fast forward. His junior year, no, I take that back. I think it was his senior year was our first trip to the Final Four. He was our leading 3-point shooter on the team. He had a classic shot by then.
Nice.
I mean, and his confidence was, well, the whole team's confidence. If his name was Eric, if Eric's going to shoot, man, it's going in.
There's a great reminder in that story too, is that none of these tips and tricks and things that we're telling our players are going to deliver instant results. It's delayed gratification, and it's so much as we're talking about these days with coaching and teams is embracing the process. Yep. Shooting is one of the biggest arenas where it's got to be process based, and you have to stick with these great principles, believing that over time it'll end up being good for you.
Yeah. You're going to have to sell them on the process.
Coach, I wish we had, if we had another hour, we could keep going with shooting.
Absolutely. We need to do it again and do it.
This is part one. Can we, you'll be my first coach that I've ever already set up part two.
I'm in. I'll sign the contract right now.
How do you build confidence in players?
Okay. And I'll make this quicker than the others so we don't run out of time. But you've already said it. It's the way you build confidence in anything is successful reps. That's about the only way. Now here's a trick. Let's use shooting as an example. Now, this will transfer to anything you're trying to teach. Even the best shooters, okay? And I wasn't the best shooter, but, in high school, I shot 46% from the field. In college, I shot 48% from the field. 1 year, I shot 91.4% from the free throw line, enough to get me in the Street and Smith magazine in college, okay? The old, if you remember that. Okay, well, they say that the people smarter than me say that in order to encourage a person to come back and continue repping anything, you need about a 70% success rate. Otherwise, they get discouraged. Well, if you're going to go on made shots, you're not going to get there for a long time.
That's right.
Okay? So I began to do things like, okay, hey, we're going to stay here until you can keep 7 out of 10 shots straight. I don't care if you miss but when you miss, if the ball comes back to you, or hits the backboard, comes back, this way, we're counting it. That's a make. Now, if the ball goes off the rim right or left, yeah, that's a miss. So can you keep 7 out of 10? And when they get 7 out of 10, can you keep 8 out of 10? And suddenly they keep shooting, and that's all I need. So I picked any little thing like that could increase their success rate up to at least 70%. I don't care what it is that you're training. The other one is, I think that you need to give your players, whether you're privately training them or you're in practice, but especially this one really applies to practice. There's got to be a time where players can make an error without consequence. They'll never try things. They'll never become solution finders, and you'll not engage their creativity and energy if you're ripping on them because the ball went out of bounds. I remember one time I was helping this program, and the kid did a dribble at, right, east-west dribble at, and the kid cut, and he threw the bounce pass, and it went right out of bounds. And the coach said, "Rick, what? See that happens all the time. What? How do we correct this?" And I said, "He needs to throw about 20 more out of bounds." And it kind of took him by surprise.
That's right.
There's only one way you learn this, and it is try it and try it and try it until you get the timing and the window and all that down. And if you're scared to do it, you'll never get to the number of reps needed to master that thing.
I love that point. At Faith, and the last few years, we've really been on a quest to see how free and how fast we can play. And I think one of the biggest things as coaches is we got to give up a lot of control for that to happen, as far as micromanaging every possession, every pass, every shot. But the second thing is building a culture to where there is no fear of failure. Right. When we're trying to, effort's great, and we're trying to accomplish what we've discussed. Yeah. And I think you're right on the money there.
Yeah. Hey, start adding the phrase "good idea" to your vocabulary.
Love that.
Oh, it went out of bounds. Hey, that was a good idea. You just got to hit him a little earlier. That kind of thing.
Coaches, the one thing that every team needs is confident shooters. The last 8 years at Grapevine Faith, our teams have averaged 354 made threes each season. I love getting to share with coaches how our shooters train, and more importantly, how they think. If you would like to enhance your shooting culture at your school, contact me directly at jamodipodcast@gmail.com.
What would you do differently? And this is really cool for me to get to ask you because of all the areas in basketball that you've been. What's one thing you would do differently if you could start over?
Okay. By the way, this question was asked of me in 1997 by my assistant coach. And he said, because I was not happy, we just lost a game that would have put us in the state tournament for the first time, and we didn't. We lost on a last-second shot. And in the discussion, I won't take you through the whole thing. Of course, I'm frustrated. He's frustrated. And in the end, we're eating supper, after the game. And he said, "Hey, if you could go back and start all over again, what would you do?" And I said, I would just teach my players how to play and not how to run plays. And he said, "Great, let's do that." And I said, "I don't know how." How do you get 5 players? I know how to do 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. How do you do that with 5 players, and no set plays? And that started my search for a solution. I couldn't find it because they all go to plays and some kind of pattern offenses when you get to 5-on-5. And so 2003, I began to try to create the read and react offense. So the answer to your question is, if I had to start all over again, I would teach the read and react, and I would never leave it for a number of reasons. And I'll tell you, every time I see a former player, I apologize to them.
Nice.
I'm sorry. I wished I had this, I've had some of them that are coaches now, and they've come to me, "Coach, why weren't we doing this?" Like, dude,
you made us run all those plays, and now there's all this fun freedom that you're teaching.
Yeah. I tell them, I said, "Look, Don Meyer told me I needed 10 years to come up with my own philosophy." I said, I finally got it. It wasn't a good one. It took me another 10 years of frustration, of almost getting there, almost this, almost that. Felt like my name was almost Rick, almost Torbett. And before I took the time to explore this, and kind of luckily stumbled onto something good with the read and react. But by the way, the reason one of the main reasons, because I know that sounds like a commercial, but one of the main reasons for that is it leads me into player development. Read and react exposes what players can't do. And that tells me exactly what I need to be teaching, exactly what my breakdown drill should be. And so I'm no longer guessing. I put in the read and react. It exposes the problems. Now I give the solution. And what I've been doing for 20 years is the other way around. I start out with stuff, with drills and stuff, offering them the solution and hoping that they'll apply it to the game, and it doesn't transfer. So that's a whole nother podcast. Trust me.
I think so. Game connectors. I think that's what the next time that we do speak, we'll talk about how that individual skill work ties into your training and what you're doing, and the game connectors that speed up the learning and the decision-making process for players. That will be fun to talk about.
Maybe that's part 3.
All right, Coach. Speed round, and I'll get quick questions. First thing that pops in your head.
Okay, I'm horrible at this, by the way. Go ahead,
Coach. I believe you're better than you think you are. Ready? Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Invisibility or super strength?
Jiminy cricket. Invisibility.
Place you most want to travel?
Oh, golly, you're killing me.
I know you've been a lot of places, but favorite?
I've never been. Hawaii.
All right. Okay. 2 more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Oh my gosh, too many.
Yeah.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, at least 4.
Love that. Last one. Godfather or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Let's go. I knew the force was strong, Coach, with you. Hey,
there is no try. There is only do.
Yoda, let's go. This isn't an old thing, but you're a basketball Yoda in a lot of ways. So I'm not saying you're 900 years old, so don't take that personally.
That's funny. I know. I'm just going to blow away in a little wisp. And I hope I do it.
Better basketball clothing. Just.
I hope I do it sitting here in front of this board, just kind of.
Oh man, Coach. Man, thank you so much for your time. I know you get asked to do so many of these things, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, man. It's an honor. Thank you. An honor and a compliment. So anytime you want to do it, you want to do 2 or 3, 4 more parts, you pick the theme. I'd love to do it.
Hey, real quick, and I know with Better Basketball, I obviously mentioned dynamic defense, but for anybody that doesn't know, Coach, where can they find all of your amazing materials?
Well, you can find it 2 places right now. One is betterbasketball.com, and the other one is PGC, Point Guard College, PGC.com. For mine, I've got 21 years of material and courses and videos on there. It's so big that we went to keep coaches from spending so much money, we went to an all-access membership. So you can watch everything in the library for $349 a year. However, for about $50 more, you can get that and everything in PGC. I think it's another 250 videos.
The value of that is just incredible.
It's incredible. I don't know how. You're right. It's incredible. I don't know how many years it would take me to watch everything in both libraries. Yeah.
Well, Coach, I can't wait for part 2. We'll get that scheduled. Right. And man, thank you for being the real deal and for your time.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.